Today we delve into the tragic story of Antonis Sykaris, a climber whose journey took a devastating turn. As he made his way down, something unimaginable happened, leading to his collapse and untimely death. But what caused Antonis Sykaris to meet such a tragic fate? What were the circumstances surrounding his descent? Let's find out. First, let's do some background checks. Dhaulagiri is one of the famous 14 mountains over 8,000 meters high. Climbing these mountains is very challenging and dangerous. While Everest and K2 get a lot of attention, each mountain has its own appeal and risks. For more than 60 years, these mountains have seen many triumphs and tragedies. But in May 2022, a sad event occurred during the climbing season. It was the first recorded death on one of these high mountains. Even with the best equipment and experienced Sherpas, mountaineering is still risky. No matter how well planned an expedition is, nature can change everything in an instant. The 2022 climbing season started positively, as some smaller countries relied on mountaineering to boost their economies through permit fees. While there are debates about issuing permits based solely on financial means, the reality is that climbers with little experience can attempt the most challenging mountains now. Antonis Sykaris, the most accomplished Greek climber, understood this reality well. He was driven by a strong desire to conquer all 14 8,000ers. He started the season early, aiming to join the elite few who had achieved this feat. At 59 years old, with over 30 years of mountaineering experience, he had a lot of knowledge about these tough mountains. However, something very sad happened to Antonis. During the winter of the 2021 season, his dear friend and climbing partner, Antonis Sykaris, fell to his death on K2. Antonis saw it happen, and it changed him forever. This tragic loss reminded Antonis of the danger that comes with mountaineering. Antonis understood that the mountains deserved respect and humility, no matter how experienced or celebrated someone was. Each climb was a careful balance between being prepared and understanding our human limits. Climbing these huge mountains was not something to take lightly. As Antonis continued his quest to conquer the remaining 8,000ers, he carried the memory of his friend and the knowledge that the mountains could be conquered, but were also very unforgiving. In the face of tragedy, people often show incredible strength. Antonis embodied that spirit. Even after witnessing the terrible consequences of mountaineering, he refused to give up. He suffered frostbite during his descent, but he was lucky to survive the dangerous journey. Antonis was shaken, but determined, and he continued climbing, dedicating his life to the sport that challenged and fascinated him. Dhaulagiri, a mountain in Nepal, stands tall at 8,167 meters. It's very intimidating. The usual route is very difficult, with steep slopes and dangerous drops on the sides. It has a death rate of almost 16%, mainly due to falls and avalanches. Dhaulagiri is known as one of the most technically challenging and dangerous mountains. The weather there is also unpredictable, adding another layer of danger for climbers. Unlike Mount Everest, which has lots of climbers, Dhaulagiri doesn't see as many. This can be good for those who want a quieter and more focused climbing experience. The appeal of climbing Dhaulagiri is not only its tough challenges, but also in the untouched south face, which nobody has conquered yet. This unexplored part is one of the last frontiers in the world of mountaineering, and it fills people with awe. Antonis, undeterred by the mountain's reputation, saw Dhaulagiri as his next goal. It called to him, challenging him to test himself on its tough slopes. His love for the sport and his strong belief in his abilities motivated him. He knew that conquering Dhaulagiri would be an incredible achievement. Climbing Dhaulagiri would require Antonis to use all his skills, determination, and strength. He knew that every step he took carried the weight of many climbers who came before him. He respected the mountain and knew to be cautious. The south face of Dhaulagiri, with its unexplored path, represents the fearless spirit of exploration and adventure that defines mountaineering. As Thomas prepared himself to climb the mountain, he understood both its beauty and its danger. He knew that reaching extraordinary summits like this came with risks, but he didn't let that stop him. He had the strong spirit that drives climbers to push their limits and make their mark in mountaineering history. Dhaulagiri is a mysterious giant that stands tall at 8,167 meters. Many have tried to conquer its tough slopes. In 1999, Tamza Humar got very close to the top, but fell just a few hundred meters short before coming back down. The mountain's impressive size, with its wide shape and imposing walls, always remind climbers of the huge challenges they face. While there are different routes on the south side, nobody has managed to climb Dhaulagiri completely from that side yet. It's still waiting for someone to make history. For Antonis, Dhaulagiri's appeal comes from its wild beauty and unachieved conquests. He chose the traditional northern route and started a journey full of excitement and unknowns. Teaming up with the experienced Dawa Sherpa, they arrived in Nepal early in the year, ready to face the mountain that called them. The trip to base camp took a whole week, and it was just the beginning. They had to get their bodies used to the high altitude and tough conditions. They followed a careful routine of going higher, spending days in the thin air, and then coming back to base camp to recover. During one of these important trips on a Thursday, April 7th, Antonis and Dawa met another group already on the mountain. They got an enticing offer to join forces and go to the summit together. But Antonis, aware of his body's needs and the importance of getting fully acclimated, made the tough choice to decline. He knew his journey required more time to adapt to the challenging environment. Dhaulagiri is a mountain that deserves respect and patience, and Antonis knew the importance of being careful. He understands that success on dangerous peaks like this requires not just physical strength, but also knowing your own limits. Even though reaching the summit may be tempting, rushing without proper preparation can have serious consequences. Antonis, driven by his dedication and respect for the mountain, stays focused on reaching the top. He prioritizes getting used to the altitude and plans everything meticulously. As the days pass, Antonis and Dawa find themselves back at base camp, keeping an eye on the weather forecast. They have a friend, Costas Gabriel, who is a meteorologist, and he gives them updates about the conditions on the mountain. Costas shares the news that the skies will be clear, and Monday the 11th will be the best day to reach the summit. With this information, Antonis feels a surge of determination. Even though he knows he wasn't fully prepared earlier, he can't resist the temptation of the good weather forecast. Normally, climbers take mandatory rest days at base camp to recover and gather energy after a rotation. But with the perfect weather opportunity, Antonis and Dawa have very little time to spare. They only have one day of rest before starting their ambitious climb to the summit. They aim for Camp 2, starting their ascent on April 9th. They know it will be a tough 12-hour climb with heavy snowfall and technical challenges, but they are prepared mentally and physically for these obstacles. Their determination fuels every step they take, bringing them closer to their goal. On April 10th, Antonis, Dawa, and the group that had reached the summit before gathered on the mountain. They kept climbing, showing their strong spirit with every passing hour. Finally, they reached Camp 3, which was incredibly high at 7,329 meters. This would be their last stop before making the final push to the summit, the moment where all their hard work and dreams would come together. Antonis and Dawa prepared themselves for the last part of their journey. The mountain stood tall and imposing, but they didn't give up. They knew that pursuing such big dreams came with a price. With every step, they honored the climbers who came before them, understanding the risks and the amazing triumphs that awaited them at the top. The air was thin, and their dreams felt heavy with every breath. But with the support of their fellow climbers, they felt encouraged to keep going. The summit was close, and it felt like everything was on their side. The mountain had tested them, but they showed incredible determination. And with it came the realization that every decision they made on this dangerous journey could be a matter of life and death. Climbers left early in the morning or late at night to make sure they reached the summit before daylight faded. Antonis and Dawa faced their biggest challenge, a tough 10-hour climb from Camp 3 to the elusive summit. This part of the ascent was known to be very dangerous, requiring great skill and determination. They planned to start late on the 10th, never wavering in their determination, with their eyes fixed on the ultimate prize. With the other group gone, Antonis and Dawa were the only ones left in the realm of the 8,000-meter peaks. As the much-awaited day began and the weather showed its beauty as predicted, Antonis started feeling the toll of the climb. His body, deprived of proper rest, struggled to keep going. Breathing became harder, a sign of the tough circumstances they faced. But despite the challenges, Antonis kept going, following Dawa Sherpa's steps through the deep snow. Hour after hour, they persisted, feeling inspired by the summit being so close. The sun, reflecting off the snow, became a symbol of hope, pushing them forward. But as time passed, Antonis' condition worsened. The high altitude had taken its toll, bringing him into the death zone above 8,000 meters, where the air is very thin and climbers lose their strength and clarity. The descent was steep, and they had to balance between pushing forward and heeding the limits of their exhausted bodies. Dawa's leadership and Antonis' unwavering spirit propelled them closer to the safety of the base camp. Step by step, they ascended from the lofty heights, leaving the summit behind, but carrying the memories and achievements deep within their souls. In the death zone, everything became extremely difficult. Antonis felt the thin air weighing him down, and each step required a tremendous amount of effort. But he didn't give up on the mountain's challenges. With incredible determination, he continued moving forward despite the increasing difficulty. The summit was so close, but in this dangerous place, nothing was certain. Antonis and Dawa had entered a world where the air was thin and the odds were against them. They stood at the point where human potential meets the power of nature, where determination and skill clash with the unforgiving forces of the mountain. The summit was almost within their grasp, but it required them to go beyond their limits and endure to the very end. Against all odds, Antonis and Dawa never gave up. Their unwavering determination brought them to the top of Dhaulagiri. At 12:50 Nepal time, they took their final steps, reaching the summit and conquering the mountain that had defeated Antonis just a year before. The victory held a special meaning, as memories of his previous failed attempt and the loss of his friend filled his heart, making this moment even more powerful. Standing on the top of Dhaulagiri, Antonis felt overwhelmed with emotions. It was not only his personal triumph, but also a victory for Greece, a testament to the unbeatable spirit of his country. He dedicated this summit to his granddaughter Irida, a symbol of hope and inspiration for future generations. However, the challenging journey had taken a toll on Antonis. Exhaustion consumed his body, leaving him tired and drained. Simple tasks became incredibly difficult, and even Dawa Sherpa noticed Antonis' struggle. Doubt crept into Dawa's mind as he saw the effort Antonis put into each movement, a stark contrast to his previous ease. Dawa led the way down, keeping a close eye on Antonis. Concern grew with every step. Their pace was slower than desired, but they kept going, making progress bit by bit. Dawa regularly checked if Antonis was still following, ensuring he was making forward strides. The weight of the journey burdened Antonis, evident in his heavy breathing and unsteady steps. Together they navigated the dangerous descent, relying on their partnership. In the end, Antonis' mind may have been cloudy, but his legs kept moving forward. Time didn't seem to matter as they slowly descended back to Camp 3. Exhaustion and the harsh terrain made each step a struggle. Antonis was lost in his own world, barely aware as they passed through the dangerous death zone, focusing only on his breathing. Their progress was agonizingly slow, far beyond the usual 10-hour descent to Camp 3. The sun had long set, and it was now early in the morning, but Dawa and Antonis persevered. Despite the unbearable pace, Antonis, mentally and physically exhausted, was a mere shell of his former self. Around 4 a.m., in the darkness of the night, Dawa turned to check on Antonis and saw him collapse against the mountain slope. With urgency, Dawa rushed to Antonis' side, deeply worried. The details of their actions after that are unclear, but somehow Dawa managed to find the strength to carry Antonis down to Camp 3. The descent, already treacherous, became even more dangerous as Antonis' condition worsened. In the fragile confines of their tent, teetering on the mountainside, Antonis' grip on life slipped away. The passing hours marked the end of his remarkable journey, as Greece's greatest climber succumbed to altitude sickness, exhaustion, and lack of oxygen. Meanwhile, Dawa was left stranded at Camp 3, grappling with the weight of loss and the impending rescue mission. Despite the difficult circumstances, he mustered the courage to radio base camp for help. A team of skilled climbers quickly organized a rescue operation to bring Dawa down from the mountain and recover Antonis' lifeless body. The mountaineering community mourned the loss of a true legend in Antonis' untimely passing. The determined rescue team made their way to Camp 3, where Dawa and Antonis awaited their arrival. Together, they began the somber descent, ensuring that Antonis' remains would be brought down from the mighty slopes of Dhaulagiri. This loss deeply affected the Greek climbing community, who admired Antonis' incredible accomplishments.